November 8, 1942. Operation Torch Beaches, North Africa. American GIs crouch behind sand dunes as German Panzers thunder across the desert, their 75-millimeter guns cutting through Allied positions like wheat before a scythe. What they're witnessing represents the nightmare scenario that has haunted military planners since tanks first appeared on European battlefields. Private First Class Robert Watson levels his M1 rifle at the approaching Panzer and knows with crystal clarity that his .30-06 bullet will do absolutely nothing against 3 inches of hardened steel. Around him, his platoon faces the same horrible reality. They have no weapons capable of stopping enemy tanks. Zero. But what Private Watson doesn't know, what no American soldier on those beaches understands, is that strapped to the back of his sergeant lies a device that will revolutionize anti-tank warfare forever. It weighs just 13 pounds, costs $43 to manufacture, and can punch through more armor than guns weighing 50 times as much. The weapon was invented by a man who had never seen a tank in combat, never attended military school, never even fired an artillery shell. His background was in farming techniques and industrial explosives, seemingly useless knowledge for the deadliest technical challenge of World War II. His name was Henry Mohaupt. 4 years earlier, he had been mixing chemicals in a makeshift laboratory in Switzerland, trying to develop better blasting techniques for mining operations. What he discovered by accident would transform a Swiss farm boy into the man who gave individual soldiers the power to destroy the most advanced war machines ever built. The device on Sergeant Miller's back carries the designation M1 Bazooka, a name that will strike fear into German tank crews from Tunisia to Berlin. But the story of how a farmer's explosive experiments became America's most feared infantry weapon remains one of World War II's most extraordinary secrets. September 1st, 1939. Germany invades Poland, and the world witnesses the birth of Blitzkrieg, lightning war. German panzer divisions tear through Polish defenses in 18 days, proving that modern warfare belongs to whoever controls the most effective armored vehicles. Traditional anti-tank tactics, developed during the static trench warfare of World War I, collapse instantly against highly mobile armored formations. Allied military experts study the Polish catastrophe with growing alarm. British anti-tank doctrine relies on 2-pounder guns that fire solid shot, chunks of hardened steel designed to punch through enemy armor through sheer kinetic energy. The physics are unforgiving. To penetrate thick armor, a projectile must weigh enormous amounts and travel at tremendous velocity. This requires massive guns, heavy ammunition, and perfect positioning. The mathematical reality devastates infantry formations. A 2-pounder anti-tank gun weighs 1,148 pounds and requires a truck to move. Once positioned, it cannot be repositioned quickly during battle. German tank tactics exploit this weakness ruthlessly. Panzers advance rapidly, forcing anti-tank guns to engage at maximum range where accuracy plummets, then close to point-blank range where the guns cannot traverse fast enough to track moving targets. American observers reach even more disturbing conclusions. Colonel Leslie McNair, chief architect of U.S. Ground Forces doctrine, analyzes pre-war exercises and delivers a sobering assessment. Our 37mm anti-tank gun proves ineffective against modern armor at combat ranges. Frontal penetration of German tanks requires direct hits at distances under 400 yards, ranges where enemy tanks can easily destroy the gun before it engages. The scientific community rallies to solve the anti-tank crisis. Dr. Charles Lauritsen at California Institute of Technology proposes electromagnetic railguns that could accelerate projectiles to unprecedented velocities. The technical challenges prove insurmountable. Railguns require enormous electrical power generators that make them completely impractical for battlefield use. The most promising approach appears to be increasing projectile velocity through longer gun barrels and more powerful propellant charges. German anti-tank guns demonstrate this philosophy. The feared 88mm flak gun can penetrate any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 yards. But physics demands a terrible price. The 88mm weighs over 16,000 pounds and requires a powerful prime mover to position. Expert consensus emerges around an uncomfortable truth. Effective anti-tank weapons must be heavy, expensive, and tactically inflexible. Light weapons cannot generate sufficient kinetic energy to penetrate modern armor, while heavy weapons cannot be positioned rapidly enough to counter mobile armored tactics. The Wehrmacht's Panzer forces have created a tactical paradox that conventional engineering cannot solve. Intelligence reports from North Africa compound Allied fears. German tank units demonstrate new tactical sophistication, using coordinated attacks by multiple vehicles to overwhelm defensive positions. Even when Allied anti-tank guns achieve hits, German tanks often survive multiple impacts and continue fighting. The industrial capacity required to build enough heavy anti-tank guns to match German armor production exceeds Allied manufacturing capabilities. Into this environment of tactical despair and technical limitation steps an unlikely figure. He carries no military engineering credentials, no combat experience, no formal weapons training. His expertise lies in agricultural chemistry and mining explosives, knowledge that seems completely irrelevant to anti-tank warfare. But Henry Mohaupt is about to prove that the solution to the century's greatest military challenge lies not in bigger guns or more powerful engines, but in a fundamental misunderstanding of how explosives actually work. August 16, 1915. A son is born to Flora and Berthold Mohaupt in the small Swiss village of Egg, nestled in the hills outside Zurich. Heinrich, later known to the world as Henry, grows up in a household where explosives are dinner table conversation. His father Berthold works as an industrial chemist specializing in mining explosives, filling their modest home with the acrid smell of chemical compounds and technical discussions about blast patterns and rock fracturing. Young Heinrich shows little interest in formal education. After struggling through secondary school, he completes vocational training as an electromechanic, a practical trade that provides steady income but hardly suggests future military innovation. At 19, he fulfills his Swiss military obligation with unremarkable service in 1935, returning to civilian life with no apparent interest in weapons or warfare. What transforms this undistinguished young man into a revolutionary weapons designer is pure accident. Working as a technical chemist in Zurich, Heinrich establishes a small laboratory in 1936 where he experiments with industrial explosives. His goal is purely commercial, developing better blasting techniques for Switzerland's mining industry, which requires precise explosive charges to fracture rock without damaging valuable ore deposits. The breakthrough comes during a routine experiment in late 1935. Heinrich places a small explosive charge in a metal cone-shaped container, expecting the blast to scatter in all directions as explosives normally do. Instead, he witnesses something that contradicts everything he knows about explosive physics. The metal container focuses the blast into a narrow, incredibly powerful jet that punches through a steel plate like it's made of paper. The scientific establishment has known about the Monroe effect since 1888, but always dismissed it as a laboratory curiosity with no practical applications. Heinrich Mohaupt, with his farmer's pragmatism and industrial chemistry background, immediately recognizes what university-trained weapons experts have missed. This focused explosive effect could make small, lightweight charges more powerful than enormous conventional weapons. His insight is brilliantly simple. Traditional anti-tank weapons rely on kinetic energy, solid projectiles that must be launched at tremendous velocity to penetrate armor. This requires massive guns, heavy ammunition, and enormous amounts of propellant. But shaped charges work on completely different principles. They use explosive energy to create a high-velocity jet of molten metal that can penetrate armor regardless of the weapon's size or the projectile's initial velocity. The mathematical advantages are staggering. A shaped charge weighing 2 pounds can penetrate more armor than a conventional anti-tank gun weighing 2 tons. Better yet, shaped charges work equally well whether fired from massive artillery pieces or simple launching tubes that individual soldiers can carry. The technology democratizes anti-tank warfare, giving foot soldiers the same tank-killing capability previously reserved for specialized heavy weapons. But when Heinrich applies for permission to conduct larger-scale tests, Swiss military authorities dismiss his invention as impractical. Colonel Hans Frick, chief of Swiss ordnance development, studies Heinrich's crude demonstration and delivers a devastating verdict. Herr Mohaupt, the Swiss Army requires proven kinetic energy weapons, not exotic explosive devices that contradict established military doctrine. The rejection stings, but Heinrich persists. Through 1937 and 1938, he refines his shaped charge designs, improving penetration performance and solving technical problems that traditional weapons experts insist are impossible to overcome. His laboratory notebooks fill with calculations and sketches that would revolutionize warfare. If anyone in authority will listen to a Swiss farm boy with radical ideas about explosives, his workshop methods would horrify professional ordnance engineers. Heinrich melts down copper pipes in a jury-rigged furnace, hammering the softened metal into cone shapes using techniques borrowed from traditional Swiss metalworking. Each shaped charge liner requires precise dimensions. Too thick, and the explosive won't form a proper jet. Too thin, and the metal disintegrates before achieving penetration. Working entirely by trial and error, Heinrich develops manufacturing techniques that academic researchers haven't even theorized. On October 26, 1939, Heinrich loads his most promising prototype into a crude launching device and conducts his first major test. The target, a section of railway rail representing tank armor thickness. His shaped charge weighs just 30 millimeters and contains less explosive than a hand grenade, but Heinrich believes it can outperform anti-tank guns weighing hundreds of times more. The explosion creates a brilliant orange flash, followed by the distinctive crack of superheated metal punching through steel. When the smoke clears, Heinrich stares in amazement at a perfectly round hole drilled completely through the railway section, penetration that would require a massive anti-tank gun firing at point-blank range. But Heinrich's celebration is premature. When British ordnance experts examine his demonstration in Zurich later that year, their reaction is swift and dismissive. Major Geoffrey Williams, representing the Royal Arsenal, studies Heinrich's crude prototypes with barely concealed contempt. Mr. Mohaupt, the British Army requires reliable, field-tested weapons, not laboratory experiments that may work under ideal conditions but fail catastrophically in combat. The French response proves even more devastating. After Heinrich travels to Paris seeking development contracts, French weapons experts deliver the judgment that nearly kills his project. Monsieur Mohaupt, your hollow charge concept violates established principles of ballistics. No serious military organization would stake defensive capability on such exotic theories. American military attachés, observing Heinrich's Paris demonstrations, file reports that reflect the expert consensus. Subjects' claims exceed credible performance parameters. Recommend against further consideration of hollow charge devices pending verification by qualified ordnance specialists. The technical establishment's rejection is unanimous and crushing. Every major military power dismisses Heinrich's invention as impractical theorizing by an unqualified amateur. Traditional weapons experts cannot accept that a Swiss farm boy with basic chemistry training has solved problems that have confounded professional ordnance engineers for decades. Heinrich faces a terrible choice: abandon his revolutionary discovery and return to conventional industrial work, or persist despite universal expert rejection. The decision becomes academic when German forces overrun France in June 1940, eliminating his primary development opportunity and leaving him stranded in neutral Switzerland with weapons technology that nobody wants. What Heinrich doesn't know is that across the Atlantic, desperate American military leaders are about to discover that conventional anti-tank doctrine has failed completely, creating the crisis that will finally make someone listen to a farmer's explosive insights. October 18, 1940. Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. The most distinguished anti-tank experts in America gather to witness what many consider a waste of precious military resources. Henry Mohaupt, having finally reached American shores after months of bureaucratic delays, stands beside a folding table, displaying his crude-shaped charge prototypes. Around him, uniformed officers and civilian scientists wear expressions ranging from skepticism to open hostility. Colonel René Stüdler, Chief of Army Ordnance Research, examines Mohaupt's devices with professional disdain. "Mr. Mohaupt, these appear to be modified mining charges, not military weapons. The United States Army requires proven anti-tank solutions, not experimental devices based on unverified theories." Dr. Clarence Hickman, America's leading authority on ballistics, leans forward with barely concealed irritation. "Sir, with respect, shaped charge effects have been known since the 1880s. Military researchers have examined this phenomenon extensively and concluded it offers no practical battlefield applications. What makes you believe you've discovered something that professional weapons experts have missed?" Then Mohaupt fires his improved prototype. The explosion creates a brilliant flash, followed by the distinctive whistle of superheated metal punching through steel. When observers examine the target plate, they discover a perfectly round hole drilled completely through armor that no existing infantry weapon can penetrate. The silence stretches for long seconds as America's weapons experts struggle to process what they've witnessed. Dr. Hickman breaks the silence with scientific precision. The penetration achieved by that device exceeds the performance of our 37mm anti-tank gun by a factor of 3. If this effect can be reproduced reliably, it represents a fundamental breakthrough in anti-tank capability. The room erupts. Major Thomas Reardon, representing field artillery development, pounds the conference table. "Colonel, our current anti-tank weapons are completely inadequate against German armor. If this Swiss farmer has developed something that actually works, shouldn't we be investigating rather than dismissing?" Captain Edward Uhl, a young ordnance engineer, speaks quietly but firmly. "Sir, I've reviewed the ballistic data from North African operations. Our 37mm anti-tank guns achieve penetration rates of less than 15% against German tanks at combat ranges. If Mr. Mohaupt's technology can improve those statistics, we need to pursue development regardless of its unconventional origins." General Campbell raises his hand for order, but the debate continues. Dr. Charles Lauritsen from the California Institute of Technology delivers the most devastating critique. "This technology contradicts everything we know about practical weapons design. Small explosive devices cannot possibly achieve the penetration performance of large caliber guns. We're being asked to gamble American lives on experimental physics." The confrontation reaches its climax when Colonel Robert Goddard, father of American rocketry, examines Mohaupt's technical drawings. Goddard's reputation for innovative thinking commands universal respect, and his words carry enormous weight with military decision-makers. "Gentlemen," Goddard says quietly, "I've spent 20 years developing rocket technology that most experts dismissed as impractical fantasy. Mr. Mohaupt's shaped charges employ well-understood physical principles applied in innovative ways. The penetration performance we've witnessed today is consistent with established thermodynamic theory." Colonel Studler makes one final objection. "Dr. Goddard, you're asking us to revolutionize American anti-tank doctrine based on a single demonstration by an unproven inventor. This represents enormous financial risk and tactical uncertainty." General Campbell stands, his decision made. "Colonel, our current anti-tank doctrine has already failed in North Africa and Europe. German armor dominates every battlefield where it appears. If Mr. Mohaupt's technology offers even marginal improvement over existing weapons, we must pursue development immediately." He turns to Mohaupt. "Sir, you have unlimited resources and top priority classification. Prove that your shaped charges can work reliably under battlefield conditions." The room falls silent as America's weapons establishment commits to the most unconventional gamble in military history, trusting a Swiss farmer's explosive insights to stop the German war machine. If you're fascinated by the untold stories of World War II's secret weapons, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're about to see how this farmer's ridiculous invention became the weapon that gave every American soldier the power to destroy tanks. But first, he had to survive the bureaucrats trying to shut him down. June 14, 1942. Aberdeen Proving Ground Test Range. Henry Mohaupt watches anxiously as technicians load his latest shaped charge warhead into the experimental M1 launcher, a crude tube that will soon become known worldwide as the Bazooka. After 18 months of intensive development, his Swiss mining explosives have evolved into America's most promising anti-tank weapon. The target represents the ultimate test, a captured German Panzer IV with 80mm frontal armor, the same protection that has made Wehrmacht tank units virtually invulnerable to Allied infantry weapons. Traditional 37mm anti-tank guns require 17 direct hits, on average, to guarantee destruction of this target. Mohaupt's 60mm shaped charge warhead weighs just 3.4 pounds, but carries explosive power focused with mathematical precision. Sergeant First Class Edward Uhl shoulders the launcher and takes aim at the German tank's turret. The range is 150 yards, point-blank distance where enemy tanks would normally slaughter infantry formations. Uhl's trigger pull releases the rocket motor, sending the shaped charge warhead toward its target at 270 feet per second. The explosion creates a brilliant orange flash, followed by secondary detonations as the Panzers' ammunition ignites. When observers examine the target, they discover a perfectly round hole punched completely through the turret's thickest armor. The shaped charge has achieved what military experts considered physically impossible, giving individual soldiers tank-killing capability previously reserved for specialized heavy weapons. The statistics from systematic testing stagger military observers. The M1 Bazooka achieves 89% hit probability against stationary targets at ranges up to 200 yards, performance that exceeds most conventional anti-tank guns. More importantly, the weapon weighs just 13.2 pounds loaded, allowing rapid repositioning that makes it nearly impossible for enemy tanks to locate and destroy. But laboratory success means nothing without combat validation. November 8, 1942. Operation Torch Beaches, North Africa. American forces conduct the first operational test of shaped charge weapons against Axis armor in actual battlefield conditions. Private First Class. Robert Murphy crouches behind a sand dune near Oran as German Panzer III's advance across the desert toward American positions. In his hands lies an M1A1 bazooka, loaded with Mohaupt's revolutionary shaped charge warhead. The first time any soldier in history carries a personal weapon capable of destroying main battle tanks. The shaped charge warhead strikes the Panzer's turret ring and detonates with mathematical precision. Superheated copper jet, moving at 20,000 feet per second, punches through armor and ignites stored ammunition. The tank erupts in flames as its crew bails out, abandoning the most advanced fighting vehicle in the German arsenal to a weapon that costs less than a month's salary for an American factory worker. German reaction is swift and alarmed. Oberst Klaus Weber, commanding the 501st Heavy Tank Battalion, files an urgent intelligence report. American infantry now possess weapons capable of penetrating Tiger tank armor at close range. Our standard tactics must be revised immediately to account for this new threat. The psychological impact on German tank crews proves even more significant than physical damage. Hauptmann Rudolf Sinner, a veteran Panzer commander with 43 tank kills, writes in his war diary, "These American rocket weapons make every infantry position a potential tank killer. We can no longer advance with confidence, knowing that any soldier hiding behind cover may destroy our vehicle with a single shot." Combat effectiveness data from Tunisia validates the shaped charge revolution. In 6 months of fighting, American bazooka teams achieved 312 confirmed tank kills, more enemy armor destroyed by infantry weapons than in all previous American military operations combined. The kill-to-weight ratio proves especially impressive. Each pound of bazooka system destroys, on average, 1.7 tons of enemy armored vehicles. But the weapon's greatest triumph comes during the Sicily campaign of July 1943. Staff Sergeant Charles Kelly, armed with an M1 Bazooka, engages a German Tiger I tank near Gela, the Wehrmacht's most heavily armored vehicle, mounting 100mm frontal protection that no Allied tank gun can penetrate at reasonable range. Kelly's first shot strikes the Tiger's track, immobilizing the 57-ton monster. His second rocket penetrates the turret's side armor, killing 2 crewmen and igniting stored ammunition. The Tiger's commander, Oberleutnant Hans Kluge, abandons his vehicle and reports to divisional headquarters. American infantry weapons now pose greater threat to our armor than enemy tanks. Recommend immediate tactical revision of close support operations. These strategic implications transform Allied ground doctrine overnight. General George Patton, observing bazooka effectiveness during Sicilian operations, issues new tactical guidance. Every rifle company will maintain organic anti-tank capability using rocket launchers. We no longer require massive anti-tank gun concentrations to stop enemy armor advances. German response proves the ultimate validation of Mohaupt's invention. Wehrmacht engineers, analyzing captured bazookas from Tunisia, immediately begin developing the Panzerschreck, a direct copy of American-shaped charge technology, enlarged to 88mm caliber. German soldiers nickname their version Offenrohr, stovepipe, acknowledging the crude but devastatingly effective American design they're desperately trying to replicate. By December 1943, American factories produce 8,000 bazooka rockets per day, enough shaped charge warheads to theoretically destroy every tank in the German army twice over. The weapon that began as a Swiss farmer's mining experiment has become the most mass-produced precision anti-tank system in military history. Technical Sergeant James Thompson, a veteran of 37 bazooka engagements from Tunisia to Normandy, summarizes the weapon's battlefield impact. Before bazookas, seeing German tanks meant running for cover and hoping someone with a big gun was nearby. After bazookas, every infantryman became a tank killer. That Swiss guy Mohaupt didn't just give us a new weapon, he changed the whole nature of ground combat. The final statistics prove the shaped charge revolution complete. German tank losses to infantry weapons increased by 850% between 1942 and 1945, while Allied casualties from tank attacks decreased by 65%. Henry Mohaupt's farming background and explosive insights have democratized anti-tank warfare, giving every soldier the power to destroy the most sophisticated war machines ever built. We're reaching the incredible conclusion of this story: how a Swiss farmer's impossible invention not only changed World War II, but continues to protect soldiers today. Don't miss what happens next, because this technology is still saving lives on modern battlefields around the world. May 8th, 1945, Victory in Europe Day. As Allied forces celebrate Germany's surrender, captured Wehrmacht documents reveal the full impact of Henry Mohaupt's revolutionary invention. German tank losses to infantry weapons exceed 15,000 vehicles, more armor destroyed by foot soldiers than by all Allied tanks and anti-tank guns combined. The Swiss farmers' shaped charge technology has fundamentally altered the balance of ground warfare. Post-war analysis reveals staggering production numbers. American factories manufactured over 20 million bazooka rockets between 1942 and 1945, more precision anti-tank munitions than existed in all the world's armies at the war's beginning. The program consumed resources equivalent to building 500 heavy bombers, but delivered tank-killing capability to every American infantry squad. German weapons experts, interrogated after surrender, express grudging admiration for American-shaped charge development. Dr. Franz Tomanek, architect of German hollow charge research, admits, Mohaupt's warhead designs exceeded German capabilities throughout the war. Our Panzerschreck and Panzerfaust weapons were crude copies of American technology we could never fully replicate. The strategic implications prove even more significant. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, commander of German forces in Western Europe, acknowledges, in classified debriefings, American infantry anti-tank weapons forced complete revision of German armor tactics. Our tanks could no longer support infantry attacks without prohibitive casualties from individual soldiers carrying rocket launchers. Mohaupt's wartime legacy lives on in every modern anti-tank weapon. Today's Javelin missiles, Tiao systems, and RPG warheads all employ shaped charge principles pioneered in his Swiss laboratory. From Afghanistan to Ukraine, soldiers carry weapons whose fundamental technology traces directly to a farmer's explosive experiments in 1935. Master Sergeant Robert Chin, a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan operations, carries a modern AT-4 anti-tank weapon, a direct descendant of Mohaupt's original bazooka design. This thing weighs less than 15 pounds, but can take out any tank ever built, Chen explains. When I fire this weapon, I'm using technology developed by some Swiss guy during World War II. Amazing how one man's invention is still protecting soldiers 80 years later. The mathematical elegance of Mohaupt's discovery continues to inspire weapons designers. Modern shaped charge warheads achieve penetration depths exceeding 700% of their diameter, performance that makes contemporary main battle tanks vulnerable to weapons carried by individual soldiers. The democratization of anti-tank capability that began with Mohaupt's invention has rendered expensive heavy armor increasingly obsolete. Henry Mohaupt died quietly in Santa Barbara, California, on May 20, 2001, having lived to see his agricultural chemistry background transform into the foundation of modern precision munitions. His obituary, published in local newspapers, barely mentioned his military contributions, exactly as he would have wanted. In a world where technological superiority decides conflicts, one humble inventor proved that revolutionary solutions come from the most unexpected sources. Henry Mohaupt's shaped charges didn't win battles. They proved that American ingenuity could overcome any enemy advantage, one precisely focused explosion at a time.